What were your nicknames?
All right, let's see. So you had DW, my initials, and you had D Dub with a W is short. Then you had Dub. Uh, did I say D Dub already? Okay. So then you have, because my dad is Daryl, my uncle called me Little, as for, as another way to say Little Daryl. So you may have heard Little Daryl. You could have heard Little Daryl, or you could have heard Little. Then you have, here's another one. Dirt was a middle name, a nickname of mine, and I got that from, again, my dad. That was a nickname of his. So I kind of gravitated to that because I was indirectly following him.
Who are your parents?
So my pops was Daryl Edward Washington, biologically. My mom was Violet Gamble initially. All right, so I wanted to make sure that I had time to connect with you because you are, if not the most major part of who I am. Your role is more than significant. Um, but I'm going to share something with you that I don't think you know when it came to the changing of my last name. So we know how the story goes. Unfortunately, my biological dad never learned how to be a dad from his dad. And the cycle repeats itself. You just passed on what you know, even if what you know includes not knowing how to be a father.
Mm-hmm.
So dropping out of school at 13 was part of his story. And turning his life over to the streets. And then fast forward, you come in the picture. And there was this contention, what I heard about, when, time passed and it was, you guys would get married, but they didn't want my last name to change.
Yeah.
And I know how big it is now, being a father, how important the last name is. But, obviously, I didn't know how important it was back then. And I don't think it would have mattered anyway. So when we had the last name change, what I tried to do, especially when I came to my senses, is to make sure I wore your last name well. So it never came to my mind to try to go back and change my last name, especially when I learned about my grandfather and tried to connect with him, and that just didn't work out. But just wanted to let you know publicly from my heart to your ear that I'm honored to bear your last name. Haven't let my dad go, certainly not. I think about the time when I gave my life to Christ. One of the first things that I did was write him a letter, and he was in Jessup in prison at the time, and I just let him know I forgave him. I forgave him for not being there, and told him that I wanted to move forward, and for us to, I was open to let him know that I was willing to build brick by brick, and we ended up having a strong relationship dynamic over time. He battled with his sobriety, so obviously he was more sober. We were able to connect a little more. So I'm equally honored to still carry his first name. But the irony that I wanted to share with you is there was a time when my mother said, and it's funny because we just recorded in Columbia, we used to live in Autumn's Crest.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember there was a time, and I was in the 2nd grade, and she said, "You're gonna be just like your father if you keep it up." Now I didn't know him, but because naturally I had that void there and a desire to know him, I started indirectly following his path because words are power, right? It actually caused me to want to know him more, when I wasn't even thinking about him until she said that. So I bear his first name, but when I gave my life to Christ, I tried to find out a creative way that I can still keep his name, but lose the identity that came with it. So people couldn't understand that. So now you'll hear people saying, calling me Darrell, right? Of course, the same spelling, but for me, Darrell was attached to an identity that I didn't want to be associated with when I gave my life to Christ. But I still wanted to honor him in some way. So I started telling people my name was Darrell. So then I said to myself, I'm like, what do I do with family that would call me Darrell?
Yeah.
So when I had my own self-talk, what resonated to me is, okay, that just tells you how far Christ has actually brought you from, right? So when I hear Darrell, I'm not at all disregarding my walk with Christ. I'm still honoring Christ. But when I hear Darrell, I know who the new man is. If that makes sense. So just wanted to have that dialogue with you. It was a beautiful thing when I did get married. There's a picture I can't find where both of y'all were sitting together in the pews. It was an amazing thing. And I cherish that moment because one man represents my first name and the other man represents my last name. So I honor you, man. I'm really grateful to be connected to you in this way. And I just wanted to share that openly and just have some dialogue with you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate that and I love that. But, you need to know, and, all y'all need to know how you and your mother I think I mentioned when your mother passed that she saved my life.
Yeah.
I was out there, not getting high, but the streets were my life. And I met your mother, and right after I met your mother, I lost my grandmother, and that was my world, and I shut down. Matter of fact, it was probably a month. I had called. We had been speaking on the phone. We had been communicating off and on. And when my grandmother died, I kind of shut down, and so I didn't call. And then after I got over that a little bit, I reached out to your mom, and I explained to her. I said, "Look, my world is gone," and that's why I didn't reach out to her. So she was understanding, so we connected again. So when we connected, that's when I finally met you. And a short period of time after that, I can't remember the exact dates then. My best friend, Sydney. I called Sydney that morning, and I was supposed to meet him in our area of Baltimore called Wakefield, at a young lady's house. And so I called your mom to leave a message on her, because I'm thinking she's at work. So I called your mom and told her that I'll meet you, I'll catch up with you when you get off from work. She picked up the phone. So when she picked up the phone, we ended up talking. And I said, you know what, I'll run past there. Since you're home, you're not feeling well, I'll run past there. And then I'll catch up with Sydney a little later on. So I ended up going over there, and I ended up, she wasn't feeling well, so I ended up staying there for, it was like 11 o'clock. It was 11 o'clock when I got a phone call, and the phone rang at her house, and it was a friend of mine, Dennis, and he said, Joe, Sydney's dead, man. And I said, man, stop playing. It could be. We joked around a lot. We kind of joked, So I hung the phone up on him, and I said, your mom said, what's going on? I said, Dennis, a friend of mine playing. I said, and then I thought about it. I said, how did he get you? I said, wait a minute. Sydney was the only one. Sydney only one knew how to contact me. So wherever I would go, and that, again, me and your mother was just beginning to get close. So I asked her, I said, look, I'm gonna give my boy your number just in case he didn't reach me. And she said it was okay. And because back then we didn't have, cell phones and all that. We had pagers, and contacts. So we would leave contact numbers for people to reach us. So Dennis called right back. As soon as I hung the phone up, Dennis called right back. And I said, Dennis, stop playing, man, and hung the phone up. And then the phone rang a third time, but it was Penny, Sydney's sister. And Penny said that Joe, he's gone. Sydney's gone. So within a very short period of time, I lost two. I lost two most important people in my life. I had brothers, but I had brothers that was as close as me as Sydney. We had been through so much. Like I said, we were in the streets, and it's been situations where, pretty much life and death, and we would never leave each other, no matter how bad it was looked. We weren't living leaving each other. There was many occasions like that. When you have somebody that when you're in a situation, and things don't look like they're gonna come out that well. But you know that that person's not gonna leave. So it absolutely destroyed me that I wasn't there because I was supposed to be there. Instead, I went to your mother's house. And, you know, for the longest time, everybody said, well, if you didn't go to Violet's house, you'd probably be dead also. And I didn't look at it that way. Because it's the situations in the past where, you know, we both thought that was it. And because we had each other, we made out of those situations. So it bothered me. It bothered me for years. But the one thing to help me make it through it was your mother and you. I had y'all too. So your mother, after everything settled down, she said, I'm moving away from the city. She said, I'm moving to Columbia. And she said, you can come with me if you want. We can do it together. She said, but you gotta leave your lifestyle behind. And you know, for a kid growing up that didn't have, anything, shoes with duct tape on, getting put out of the home, didn't have anything. And now I'm 17 years old, driving a Lincoln Continental. So I'm living a different lifestyle. Cindy just convinced me to start buying property. Cindy had already bought 3 properties. Your mother was, beyond all that, and I can say that now, well, maybe, if I got enough, legal stuff that I would get away from all the negative stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if that would happen. But I do know that your mother got me away from all that. You and your mother. I fell in love with y'all right away. So when she said that to me, and she said, I'm moving to Columbia, and she said, I'm being honest, she said, I can't have my son, because she really didn't, she knew, and so I told her, and of course she was like, no, I'm not kidding, I can't have my son, I can't have, and then when that happened to Sydney, that definitely, she said, I would love for you to come with us, but you gotta leave that behind. So, of course, it would have been, like you said, a complete lifestyle change for me. I didn't, give up streets to hustling. But I loved y'all so much that that's what I decided to do. And it changed my life. It completely changed my life. Moving to Columbia, and here I am straight up out of the streets of Baltimore City, and moving to Columbia was like a culture shock. I would remember just standing there sometime looking, and it took a little while for me to adjust to that, but the adjustment was easy because that's where you and your mom was, so that's where I was gonna be. So I made the adjustment, So just as much as, you say your Honor carry my last name. You know, I have a really deep, special place in my heart for you and your mom. It's a life changer for me. By the grace of God, things didn't work out with me and your mom, but that's part of life, It still doesn't take away from the fact that she still had that. She's still, and I'll tell everybody, anybody, she saved my life. I was going to die in those streets. It's just, Cindy died in the streets. I was going to die in the streets. There was no question about that, So, without her, I wouldn't be sitting here right now doing this interview. I just wouldn't. And I wouldn't be where I'm at in life because she made me change, So when I changed, I still wanted to live a certain way. I had to figure out another way to do it.
Yeah.
So start working, post office, start a business. I did whatever I had to do to, to make it work. So, but I owe it to you and her. And I share that story. I didn't share it for years. I was almost ashamed of it. Not the part about you guys, the part about where I came from. So, but I shared it, but not like I just shared it just now. It's the first time I ever shared it like that. I usually just tell people, hey, look, I came from a rough background, man, and I made it out of the streets. That's usually what I share, and that's it. But yeah, I think about it all the time. I've been lucky. I still, me, I still grind. It's just part of who I am now. Even at almost 70 years old, I still, try to go out and find a way and, to make it, It's just part of who I am, part of my DNA. So, but it all started with you and your mom.
Great. And because I saw you hustle, it definitely encouraged me to hustle. And we're talking legally, of course, but working in the post office 6 days a week and then going to the shop to run the shop was something that it really helped to ground me and to make sure that I can provide. Yeah. Love you and I appreciate you, man.
Man, I love you. Yep.
No funerals.
No funerals.
We ain't having no more funerals.
We ain't doing no funerals. That's a wrap. We ain't gonna run it back. That's cat.